Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. The movie Sky Sharks begins on a plane full of passengers flying over the Pacific, still far from their destination. The passengers chat carefreely and enjoy their journey however they can, unaware that a great threat is approaching. Inside, a little girl asks her father how much longer until they arrive, and the guy, who is watching a very questionable show, replies that it will still take a long time, which leaves the girl pretty discouraged as she looks out at the sea of clouds. On this plane, there are also some other strange characters, like a priest who is a former gang member and still tends to say inappropriate things. Besides him, there's an old man with terrible manners who is drunk and keeps hitting on the flight attendants, and a guy pretending to film the view above the clouds but is actually just watching videos. Strangely, at that moment, the little girl turns to her father and says she sees sharks flying among the clouds, but of course the guy doesn't believe her and lets it go. But he should have listened to his daughter, because right then, several poorly CGI'd flying sharks, ridden by Nazis, are flanking the plane to invade it. This army of people riding sharks invades the plane and attacks the passenger, who becomes snacks for the flying zombie Nazi marine animal. The zombie Nazis face off with the passengers and begin a bloodbath with terrible special effects, inflicting extremely cruel deaths on their victims, resulting in a river of blood. The terrifying scene on the plane leads to its inevitable destruction, and as soon as the zombies and sharks' mission is complete, they all leave, leaving behind only a blood-red sky. After that, we see the futuristic city of New York, where there is a private company called Richter Technology, whose owner, a man named Klaus Richter, is over 110 years old, but manages to maintain the physical condition of a 75-year-old by injecting himself with a formula that alters his DNA. And the cool thing is that the guy also has a Sandevistan in his spine. That night, the man gets ready and is visited by his daughter Angelique. The two watch movie summaries and leave a like to support the channel, just like you just did. And after that, they watch the video of the plane attack, which was recorded by a passenger. The daughter thinks it could be anything, from extremists to some heavy metal band. In addition, Dr. Richter also tells Angelique that her sister was sent to the Arctic to investigate a discovery that may be related to this mysterious attack. After that, we see Professor Richter's eldest daughter, Diabla, already in Antarctica. She's there to learn more about the giant ship/spaceship that recently became visible thanks to global warming. According to the company, this ship is over 100 years old. There really wasn't much the airplane passengers could do to get out of that situation. After all, they were up against flying sharks mounted by an immortal and armed army. It was just pure bad luck that they were the first victims. When Diabla arrives at the ship, she is surprised by the imposing size of the vessel, something she had never seen before. So she decides to take a look at the cameras around the ship. Seeing that the woman needed help, Diabla and her driver hurry to rescue her, not knowing that she had already met a bad end. At that moment, her father calls her and starts watching the images from her camera. The woman enters that extremely dark ship and starts wandering through the corridors intending to discover some things and help the young girl, something her father was against, and he was right about that. After all, the blonde had already been brutally fed to the sharks. Suddenly, Diabla finds a room with an army of zombie Nazis hanging, and after taking some pictures, she keeps walking. The problem is that the signal between father and daughter is interrupted, leaving Klaus not knowing what to do. And to make things worse, Diabla is surrounded and attacked by zombies. Luckily, she was wearing a resistant uniform and was extremely good at martial arts. And knowing very well how to fight, she faces the zombies and kills all of them in style. After eliminating the zombies that attacked her, she realizes that this is not an ordinary ship. There was something very strange happening there, and she must be pretty slow to only realize now that there is clearly something weird about this vessel. But after this fight, things only get worse because soon she arrives at the hangar, which was full of soldiers and sharks. The young woman is spotted and taken down by a zombie Nazi boss, and then she receives an injection and stays there sitting. But Diabla doesn't give up and grabs an ice axe from a corpse. Then she runs, jumps, and clings to a glacier before the ship sinks. Outside, she sees several flying sharks, and surprisingly, after a while, they all become invisible. Next, we see a commercial for Richter Technology, which promises to give a better future for children and more protection for Americans, just like any American company does every year. After that, Diabla wakes up in Richter's company lab, where she was taken after being rescued. As soon as she wakes up, her father and sister arrive to talk for a bit and soon leave so she can rest and recover. Then we see Angelique continuing her normal life, exercising. Klaus takes his injections, and Diabla seems to be suffering the effects of the vaccine she got from the zombie Nazi boss. as she slowly appears to be turning into one of them. Later, while the father is sitting at the table with his two daughters during the meal, Angelique asks her father to tell them everything he knows about what might be happening. So Klaus begins to share the story from 1944, when the Nazis were already in a bad situation and practically defeated. Hermann, someone of high rank in the army, went to visit Dr. Kammler to find out if he had anything that could help reverse the tide of the war, which was almost lost, as even his squad had already been wiped out. They exchange initial greetings, have a drink, and Kammler shows his presentation, which was a commercial about his K7B serum. This commercial was intended to keep the Army's hope alive and show that things could still improve. This K7B serum could transform soldiers into super soldiers, almost indestructible, immortal, and much stronger, on land or in the sky, since there would also be flying sharks. Seeing this makes Hermann very happy, and he says that this commercial will be presented to the mustachioed man himself. Richter says that after Hitler's death in 1945, the situation in Germany got much worse, and both the Nazi army and the commander disappeared. He himself came to America and succeeded because of his former position, founding this company as he wanted to be a better person. However, after creating the serum, he regretted it, feeling that maybe he shouldn't have done it, especially because these invisible flying sharks are deadly weapons that can wipe out a city quickly. Upon hearing all this, the professor's two daughters become very angry and reprimand him, saying that he is responsible for everything that is happening, that he made many mistakes and played God. But the man says that he genuinely regretted it and came to the United States to find a way to fight against this and save the world, helping in military research, something that is hard for his daughters to understand. And as absurd as it seems, the United States of America really served as a refuge and recruited several Nazi scientists so they could contribute their knowledge to future battles. An example of this is Arthur Rudolph, who, while he was in the German army at the time, used forced labor for his research. But even so, he was brought to the USA and became one of the pioneers of the space program, even winning NASA awards. And another good example is Otto von Bolschwing, who was from the SS, and even so was accepted as a CIA agent after World War II. Next, newspapers show the zombie Nazi army attacking New York and other countries, including England, Russia, Spain, and Germany, literally causing a global emergency situation. Given all these circumstances, Klaus and Angelique communicate with the American general via video call, a general played by Tony Todd, an actor who played the iconic Candyman and later started doing a bunch of low-tier movies like this one and Hatchet. Poor guy. But everyone has to pay the bills, right, anyway? As soon as the meeting starts, many other people from various countries join to exchange information. Influential people who can move armies and understand science, like Dr. Fumiko Katsubi. After Klaus laments and regrets the things he did in the Second World War, the meeting participants exchange some words and barbs until Dr. Katsubi begins to speak and explain what they know about the sharks. It is explained that because of a certain gland in the skin of these sharks, they can trick radars and even avoid being hit by missiles. And knowing this, it is decided that a department will be created for technological advances to counter this. Soon it is shown that Wall Street has stopped functioning, as have the airports because they are under martial law in the airspace, and the fact that people cannot leave the country causes media intrigue. A few days later, we see Tyler picking up a suitcase that supposedly contains the antidote for the zombie virus. After this, the guy goes and meets with the Richter sisters, and although it is clear that Diabla is not well, she just denies it, saying it is nothing. Next, at the airport, after many days of interruption, a single flight is cleared for a small group of people to board, causing great commotion among them. And finally, all the passengers board the plane with enthusiasm. On the flight, there are obviously various types of people, like the perverted father who doesn't care about his son, the jerk who is annoying to the flight attendants, the couple, and the agents who are there, and none of them seem very concerned. Meanwhile, the professor's two daughters, Tyler, and many other agents follow the plane heading to New York with the objective of eliminating the zombies, as they know the Nazi zombies will attack that plane. After all, this is the American government's plan to lure the zombies there. And in fact, the Nazi zombies approach the plane to attack it. Inside the aircraft, the passengers begin to see something outside, and then the zombies appear, causing panic. The zombies and sharks attack the plane, and their first victim is the guy from the couple. The woman sees this and runs out. The zombies don't even need to invade the aircraft to take out a good portion of the passengers because they run a steel cable through the plane and make everyone lose their heads out of sheer fear. After that, the soldiers invade and start finishing off the survivors. At the same time, in another plane, the agents use a high-scale electromagnetic pulse to end the invisibility of the sharks. Then, the commander hands over a box containing an antidote for the virus to Angelique. Richter himself created this antidote because he fears that his other daughter, Diabla, could become a zombie and lose control, and this is a way to prevent it. So the old man enters a video call with his youngest daughter and explains that the zombies see Diablo as one of their own, and that's why they should be careful. After that, Klaus enters a meeting with his colleagues from other governments and explains that the zombies are coming after him in New York to finish him off before he can do anything to stop them. And that's why the Dead Meat Project should be put into action. The Dead Meat Project started during a Cold War between Vietnam and Korea. Klaus was working on a serum to create a perfect soldier, and they took advantage of this war to use it on some enemy soldiers they encountered along the way. This perfect soldier called Damien would be controlled by Klaus and could help him in future battles. But one night, during a fight against the enemy, Damien ripped out the signal receiver from his head and became something uncontrollable and invincible, incapable of distinguishing between friend and foe. And so the experiment failed. However, despite the defeat, Klaus discovered points he could improve with the help of modern technology. At that moment, in the air, Diablo lets her zombie Nazi will take over and opens the airplane door so enemy soldiers can enter. And so a battle begins inside the agent's plane, while outside the sharks prepare to destroy the craft. Luckily, out of nowhere, Klaus appears controlling a mega-giant zombie shark that probably isn't a Nazi and destroys the enemy. Thus, a brutal battle takes place inside and outside the plane. In the midst of the chaos, Diablo almost finishes her sister, but luckily the weapon fails, and that gives Angelique the chance to inject the antidote into the eldest, who quickly returns to normal. Thus, all the zombie soldiers are destroyed, and the door is closed. The problem is that outside, Klaus is being bombarded from all sides, but even that isn't enough to stop him. The army general is moved witnessing this moment, and Richter is also pleased with the success of the mission against the zombies. However, it's clear that the real battle is just beginning, and while everyone celebrates, Klaus puts away his Sandevistan and smokes a cigar. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you next time.